One of the latest trends in UK politics is the surge of the Greens among young voters. According to Economist's poll tracker, since the 2024 general election, support for the Greens among under 35s has tripled, while support for Labour, until recently the de facto party of the left, has halved. As well as signalling a broader shift to the left, this also apparently sets the UK apart from many other European countries, where the youth vote is either fragmenting or shifting right. So in this video, we'll take a look at how the polls have changed recently, and try and explain why young Brits are apparently so left-wing. Never miss an episode and always feel in the loop by subscribing and ringing the bell. First, we'll start by looking at young people's voting preferences. At the 2024 general election, the top preference for 18 to 24-year-olds was Labour, taking 41% of the youngest age group's vote. The second highest party was the Greens, with 18% of the 18 to 24 vote, followed by the Lib Dems, with 16% of the vote. But by mid-2025, a YouGov survey, published in June, found that only 51% of 2024 Labour voters would vote Labour again in a new election, the lowest voter retention of any UK political party. When we dig into the data, we see that Labour's loss is most acute among young voters, especially under 35s, who've primarily shifted to the Greens. The Economist poll tracker shows that since the 2024 election, more than half of under 35s who voted Labour have now ditched the party, while support for the Greens has tripled. Similarly, as this Guardian graphic shows, in mid-January around 45% of 18 to 24-year-olds said that they'd vote for the Greens, up 19 points from the 26% figure in September. This surge seems largely down to the Greens' new leader, Zach Polanski, who was elected in early September and whose bright, punchy social media campaign has apparently resonated with younger voters. Interestingly though, the political shifts among young Brits differ from other European countries. In France, for instance, populist right-wing parties have seen higher support among young voters, especially young men. Furthermore, the National Rally's presidential candidate Jordan Bardella has consistently led the polls among all age groups, and polls remarkably well with 18 to 24-year-olds. Similarly, in Spain, young voters are especially keen on Vox, Spain's hard-right upstart, while in Austria, the far-right Freedom Party won a plurality of young voters at the most recent election. Now, it's important not to overstate this. Left-wing parties are also seeing a resurgence with young voters in a number of other European countries. Germany's left-wing Die Linke, for instance, is polling remarkably well with 18 to 24-year-olds, and the Netherlands' Green Left Labour Alliance came joint top with under 35s at the Dutch elections in October. Nonetheless, even in these countries, young people don't seem to be as left-wing as they are in the UK, where the Greens have a 10-point lead over Labour with under 35s, and a 13-point lead over Reform. Furthermore, younger voters in the UK are also much more likely to say that they would never vote for Reform compared to other parties. In mid-2025, researchers from the University of Exeter asked respondents to rank their likelihood of voting for each party on a scale from 0, very unlikely, to 10, very likely. They found that 61% of under 30s gave Reform a score of 0, suggesting that they would never vote for Reform, while just 25% of under 30s said that they would never vote for Labour. While 27% of under 30s gave Labour a score of 7 or above, meaning that they're quite likely to vote for the party, the Greens and Liberal Democrats both outperformed Labour, with 30 and 33% of under 30s respectively giving them a score of 7 or more. Anyway, this brings us onto our main question. Why are young Brits so left-wing, and especially in comparison to young Europeans? Well, quite a lot of this seems to be because young Brits are more squarely focused on economic issues than their European peers. According to YouGov, for instance, by far and away the biggest issue for young Brits at the moment is the economy, with housing in second and health in third. Conversely, immigration, which apparently motivates a lot of young people to vote for the right in Europe, is only in fourth place, and the percentage of young Brits citing it as one of the most important issues facing the UK has fallen steadily since October. In fact, it's the Greens' radical economic policies which are apparently drawing in new voters. In December, YouGov found that new Green voters, i.e. those who are now planning to vote Green but didn't in the last election, are significantly more concerned about the economy than 2024 Green voters, but less concerned about poverty and the environment. This highlights the increasing salience of economic issues among young Brits, who are struggling with everything from a housing crisis to high unemployment and stagnant wages. What's interesting is that younger reform voters also share these concerns. A Guardian analysis published in November, for instance, found that a majority of reform voters under 35 belong to a voting bloc nicknamed the Contrarian Youth, who actually hold relatively moderate views on immigration, but are more likely to cite the cost of living, NHS, and taxes as their most important issues. By contrast, for older reform voters, immigration is by far the most important issue. This suggests that younger reform voters are attracted to reform for its relatively radical economic policies, rather than its anti-immigrant politics. As such, there's probably a group of younger reform voters who would also consider voting for the Greens based on economic arguments, given that their party preference is driven more by economic exclusion than a coherent right-wing ideology. The point we're trying to make is that young Brits are far more squarely focused on economic issues than their European peers. And this, plus the fact that Labour's economic programme turned out to be far less radical than many young voters hoped, might plausibly explain why they're more economically left-wing. However, even when it comes to social issues, young Brits are pretty left-wing. As you can see from this graph by the Financial Times' data journalist John Byrne-Murdoch, young Brits are more liberal-minded than their international peers. And in contrast to South Korea, the US, and Germany, young men in the UK have also become more liberal in recent years. There's no straightforward explanation here, but we could tentatively suggest that this might have something to do with the fact that lots of Brits go to university, and graduates tend to have more liberal politics than non-graduates. According to OECD data from 2024, for instance, over 60% of 25 to 34-year-old Brits have a tertiary education. This probably understates things as well, because while tertiary education includes both university and vocational training, the UK does far less vocational training than Europe does. Again, this isn't intended as a total explanation, but it's plausible that this strong graduate force is part of the story. Clearly, the current state of the world is plagued by uncertainty and risk. And just while you've been watching this video, your personal information may have been sold or published online without you even knowing about it. And you might just think, well, what's the harm in a few spam calls? But unfortunately, it's not that simple. It might be scary, but scams and identity theft both start with your personal data being exposed online. So that's why we turn to Incogni. Incogni expertly tracks down and removes your data from multiple sites, so that your personal information can't be bought or sold by bad actors online. No longer will your data pop up on online directories, people's search sites, or commercial databases for everyone to see and abuse. They work on your behalf to request your personal data removal, and even conduct repeated removal requests so that you can remain in control. You can even send Incogni sites that expose your data, and they'll send removal requests on your behalf, or assist in you opting out on your own with their custom removals feature. And it's even impacting parts of your life that you never thought about. For example, your health insurance could actually raise your rates just based on your online activity, particularly the data that you enter into health apps. Insurance companies can easily buy that data and decide for themselves just how healthy you are, without you even getting a say. From your phone number to your political affiliation, Incogni can help you find it all and remove it from the internet for good, keeping you protected from the threats you might not even be aware of. Because if they can't find you, they can't harm you. There's no better time to start protecting yourself. So create an account with our link in the description, grant Incogni the ability to work on your behalf, and sit back as they make you safer. Plus, by using code TLDRnews at checkout, you can get an exclusive 60% off their annual Incogni plan. And there's absolutely no risk either with their 30-day money-back guarantee.